Have you ever wondered what's like to be an immigrant living in a foreign land, or a refugee fleeing from war, violence, or natural disaster? I know, for I am one. Being an immigrant and a refugee was not easy, but it has taught me many lessons. One is the importance of being in solidarity with the millions of people who are displaced all over the globe. Although my parents originally came from North Vietnam, and I was actually born and raised in the south of my homeland. After the fall of Saigon in 1975, my family and I immigrated to the United States of America as refugees, seeking religious freedom and other basic human rights that were no longer available under the communist political regime. My family certainly knows what it's like to be stripped of all fundamental human rights, especially the freedoms of expression and worship. To live under such oppressive conditions was not an option for committed Christians. The migrant and refugee crisis has erupted enormously and has become one of the major factors shaping the world today. Every day, millions of people are on the move. In the last several decades, the number of immigrants has increased exponentially. As of today, it is estimated that approximately 3.4% of the world's 7.6 billion people are displaced. That's 1 out of every 30 people on the planet now living away from his or her homeland. From another perspective, if migrants and refugees were gathered in one place, they would constitute the 5th largest nation on earth, surpassing 45 million more than the whole population of the country of Brazil. According to the International Organization of Migration, it is projected that by 2050, there would be as many as 405 million international migrants globally. Because of the growing inequalities of wealth caused by globalization, political and ethnic conflicts, environmental disasters, a virus pandemic like COVID-19, free trade, and viable means of transportation, more and more people are migrating than ever before, causing some to call our era the age of migration. Migration is by no means a new phenomenon. Since the dawn of human history, wave upon wave of people have been on the move for a variety of reasons, including trade, war, persecution, natural disasters, economic opportunities, asylum, and even adventure. Interestingly, the Bible contains many stories written by, for, and about strangers, migrants, and refugees. It begins with the first human parents banished from paradise and ends with the prophet John's exile on the island of Patmos. Encapsulated between these two bookends, namely Genesis and Revelation, are stories of God's people constantly moving about. Thus, we could correctly say that the Bible is essentially a tapestry woven together from the stories of one huge migrant family. Since these sacred texts are written by, for, and about migrants, it is worthwhile to examine some of its key figures and events in order to draw out appropriate responses to one of the most challenging phenomena of our time, migration.
Do you want to fall in love with God? I'm sure we all want to. The Book of Psalms contains the directions. Thousands of years ago, people like you and me talked to God out of the depths of their hearts, revealing an intimate love. Psalms are the expression of the faith in God by people around 3,000 years ago. God was not a mere abstract creator, but was present, involved, and a real person of power and emotions. Now, when we read or listen to the Psalms, we can know the intensity of this love. Entering into the influence of the Psalms, we can find a path to know and love God. To know more about the Psalms, you should get a copy of Father Mike Manning's booklet, The Psalms. It will help you to understand the 150 Psalms better as he has categorized them. He uses the technique of acts: adoration, contrition, thanksgiving, and supplication. Get your copy today and know the categories. Learn to pray with the Psalms.
Call the number on the screen or email us. You can also get it through our website. Get your copy today.
Crossing international borders, or even moving around within a country, is a major characteristic of our present age. No continent, region, or country is immune from this worldwide phenomenon. The following stories should cause our stomachs to churn. Zazel, who was only 11 years old, was forced to live with a 40-year-old man. She cooked, cleaned, and was forced to have sex. Zazel became pregnant at 14 and had a baby. The alarming thing is that her father approved of it, and the villagers were silent about it. Another young girl named Rosita, who was 12 years old, and was the target of sexual desires of a 45-year-old man. He paid a small dowry to her parents and received a piece of paper to confirm that it was a valid marriage arrangement. Rosita was raped during the act of the so-called marriage consummation. She got pregnant and had a baby at the age of 14. Cham is a 19-year-old girl from rural Cambodia. One day, a broker arrived to her village promising her a very good-paying factory job in China. After obtaining enough money, she said goodbye to her family and set out on a new adventure. She expected to make good money to send back to her family. Her dreams were shattered when she arrived. Cham was forced to marry an older man who repeatedly abused her, both physically and sexually. With all her documents confiscated, she was trapped as an indentured servant. According to UNICEF, there are more than 700 million women alive who were married before their 18th birthday. More than 1 in 3, or about 250 million, had entered into marriage union or became a child bride before age 15, like Zazel and Rosita. According to one estimate, 14.2 million girls annually, or 39,000 daily, will marry too young. In several countries, taking a child bride has become a cover for pedophilia to avoid the penalties of the law. Foreign brides, like the case of Cham, who come from Southeast Asian countries of Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines, have been sought after, especially by men from Taiwan, Japan, China, and South Korea. Their numbers could run into the hundreds of thousands. In general, feminization of migration in Asia and across the globe has increased significantly in recent years, and the child bride phenomenon is part of this trend. Not surprisingly, the Bible has a lot to say about protecting these vulnerable individuals. Even in normal circumstances, children were already vulnerable. The infant mortality rate in the first century Palestine was about 30%. Nearly a third of all babies died before the age of 1. It is estimated that half of the children would not make it to the age of 12. Being an infant in the time of Jesus was definitely a risky business. In times of war and violence, children suffered the most. Many became orphans. Others ended up as refugees, beggars, or slaves. The children of our world today are also not free from danger and risk. In 2019, there were about 30 million children worldwide who became immigrants. An estimated 10 million were refugees who were forcibly displaced from their country, and another 17 million were internally displaced due to conflict and violence. Many of these children were at grave risk of human trafficking, sexual violence, exploitation, family separation, and emotional trauma. All across the globe, millions of children are being uprooted, driven from their homes, deprived of education, and facing starvation. In August 2017, a surge of violence began that forced about 1 million Rohingya refugees to flee Myanmar and cross the border into Bangladesh. About 60%, or 683,000 of them, were children. Many of these Rohingya children walked for days to make it to an already overcrowded makeshift refugee camp. They arrive exhausted, sick, and in desperate need of humanitarian assistance. The Rohingya are an ethnic group, mostly Muslims, who have lived in Western Myanmar for centuries. Yet they are stateless, unrecognized as citizens by the Myanmar government. Thus, they face discrimination, violence, and extreme poverty. Most of these children are deprived of education and are at real risk of becoming a lost generation. Girls and women are at particular risks of sexual abuse and trafficking. On the United States and Mexico border, the U.S. Border Patrol apprehended nearly 69,000 unaccompanied children in 2014, 40,000 in 2015, and 60,000 in 2016. 61% of these apprehended unaccompanied minors in 2016 were from El Salvador and Guatemala. The U.S. is bracing for a 20-year high in numbers of migrants arriving at the southern border, including thousands of children who are being kept in government-run detention facilities that critics say are inhumane. More than 100,000 people in total were stopped from trying to cross into the U.S. in February. As of March 21st this year, U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agents were holding more than 15,500 unaccompanied children in custody, according to U.S. media. The record-breaking influx of children has left U.S. immigration officials scrambling for solutions to a growing humanitarian crisis. Why are they coming? Experts say the reason for migration are varied. poverty, gang crime, and natural disasters are some reasons that migrants may feel pushed to leave their home countries. Pandemic-related job losses could be adding to the surge this time too, in this pandemic time. Protecting those most vulnerable, particularly widows and orphans, is God's central concern. The Bible ensured their protection through legislation. The Torah states, quote, "For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who is not partial and takes no bride, who executes justice for the orphan and the widow, and who loves the strangers, providing them food and clothing." Deuteronomy chapter 10, verses 17. The prophet Zechariah also exhorted the people of this time, reminding them that this is what God required of them, saying, quote, "Render true judgments, show kindness and mercy to one another. Do not oppress the widow, the orphan, the alien, or the poor." Zechariah 7, verses 9 to 10. In the New Testament, James points out that there is a deep connection between faith and action, stating, "Religion is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to care for orphans and widows in their distress." James chapter 1, verse 27. Jesus, of course, was also very protective of children. When Jesus saw that the children were prevented from seeing him, he said, "Let the children come to me. Do not stop them, for it is to such as these that the kingdom of God belongs. Truly I tell you, whoever does not receive the kingdom of God as a little child will never enter it." And he took them up in his arms, laid his hands on them, and blessed them. On another occasion, an argument started among the disciples as to which of them would be the greatest. Jesus, knowing their thoughts, placed a little child by his side and said to them, "Whoever welcomes this child in my name welcomes me." Children are precious gifts from God. We must do everything possible to protect and nurture them. There are dire consequences for neglecting and mistreating them. Jesus says, "Take care that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I tell you, in heaven their angels continually see the face of my Father in heaven." Jesus didn't just talk about protecting children. He demonstrated it in his actions. Some notable examples of Jesus healing children are curing the daughter of a foreign woman, curing a Roman soldier's son, casting a demon out of a boy, raising a girl and a boy to life, curing a centurion's servant. Disturbing ordeals of women and children across the globe today should cause all of us to feel compassion, as Jesus has often felt. The Greek word for compassion is splagchnizomai, which is literally translated to be moved in one's bowels or in the inward parts. Hence, to feel compassion is to be moved so deeply by something that one feels it in the pit of one's stomach. This Greek word is frequently used to describe Jesus' emotion that almost always led him to action. The Latin root for the word compassion is compati, which literally means to suffer with. However, compassion is much more than just feeling sympathy or even apathy with someone suffering. Compassion prompts a person to act on someone's behalf. That is why the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines compassion as the sympathetic consciousness of others' distress together with the desire to alleviate it. Taking action or getting involved to do something about a distressful situation is what separates compassion from sympathy and empathy. Having genuine compassion changes the way we live and affects the world around us. We must never remain silent in the face of injustice, but act in the way the Bible beckons us. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy.
Psalm 2. Why do the nations conspire and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and his anointed, saying, Let us burst their bonds asunder and cast their cords from us. He who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord has them in derision. Then he will speak to them in his wrath and terrify them in his fury, saying, I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill. I will tell of the decree of the Lord. He said to me, You are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage, and the ends of the earth your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron, and dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Now therefore, O kings, be wise, be warned, O rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, with trembling kiss his feet, or he will be angry, and you will perish in the way, for his wrath is quickly kindled. Happy are all who take refuge in him.
Do you want to fall in love with God? I'm sure we all want to. The book of Psalms contains the directions. Thousands of years ago, people like you and me talked to God out of the depths of their hearts, revealing an intimate love. Psalms are the expression of the faith in God by people around 3,000 years ago. God was not a mere abstract creator, but was present, involved, and a real person of power and emotions. Now, when we read or listen to the Psalms, we can know the intensity of this love. Entering into the influence of the Psalms, we can find a path to know and love God. To know more about the Psalms, you should get a copy of Father Mike Manning's booklet, The Psalms. It will help you to understand the 150 Psalms better as he has categorized them. He uses the technique of acts: adoration, contrition, thanksgiving, and supplication. Get your copy today and know the categories. Learn to pray with the Psalms.
Call the number on the screen or email us. You can also get it through our website. Get your copy today.
Psalm 91. Assurance of God's protection. You who live in the shelter of the Most High, who abide in the shadow of the Almighty, will say to the Lord, My refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions. Under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler. You will not fear the terror of the night, or the arrow that flies by day, or the pestilence that stalks in darkness, or the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only look with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked, because you have made the Lord your refuge, the Most High your dwelling place. No evil shall befall you, no scourge come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. On their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the adder, the young lion and the serpent you will trample underfoot. Those who love me I will deliver. I will protect those who know my name. When they call to me, I will answer them. I will be with them in trouble. I will rescue them and honor them. With a long life, I will satisfy them and show them my salvation. It is good to give thanks to the Lord, to sing praises to your name, O Most High, to declare your steadfast love in the morning and your faithfulness by night, to the music of the lute and the harp, to the melody of the lyre. For you, O Lord, have made me glad by your work. At the work of your hands I sing for joy. How great are your works, O Lord! Your thoughts are very deep. The dullard cannot know. The stupid cannot understand this. Though the wicked sprout like grass, and all evildoers flourish, they are doomed to destruction forever. But you, O Lord, are on high forever. For your enemies shall perish, all evildoers shall be scattered. But you have exalted my horn like that of the wild ox. You have poured over me fresh oil. My eyes have seen the downfall of my enemies. My ears have heard the doom of my evil assailants. The righteous flourish like the palm tree and grow like a cedar in the Lebanon.